Welcome to the Riding in the Weeds podcast, where we tackle life's inevitable challenges, from navigating mountain bike trails to overcoming business hurdles and forging deeper connections with pets and people. It's easy to find yourself tangled in the weeds, but we're here to help with insights and strategies that'll get you out of the weeds. Our goal is to boost your performance in both sports and everyday life by sharing essential skills that we've learnt along the way. Through tales of our entrepreneurship journey, thrilling biking adventures, and fostering meaningful relationships, your hosts, Natasha, Lockey, and Ginny, Branden, will guide you on a journey that's not only enjoyable, but also inspiring. Join us to gain confidence that you need to navigate the trails of life. Hello and welcome to episode 77 of Riding in the Weeds. Today we are talking about what's the rush? In discussing this topic, what we've actually come to conclude is that this is kind of a summary of a whole lot of things that we've talked about over the last 77 episodes. And so a little bit of a rehash, but this episode is for you if you're someone who is like, I need to take big action to see big results. And then you find yourself not quite following through because it's too big, right? And when you take little actions, you feel like you're not getting the result fast enough. However, that's the thing. Anybody who's ever been successful in anything, it is not the big, massive action that was the one that got them there. It was the small, little actions that were taken day after day after day that added up to the ability to look like there was just one big, massive action. And to sound very generic, Taylor Swift just went berserk in her career by literally taking every small action and every small thing that she had done and piecing it all together and making one big action from it. But without all of those pieces, the Eras Tour wouldn't have been anything because she had to go through all those eras in order to make a successful tour. So I am Natasha Lockey. I am a life bike performance coach. I'm here to help you really figure out what steps you need to take day after day after day to get you to your dream life. And I'm here with my co-host, Ginny Branden, who I'm going to let introduce herself.
Yeah, I'm Ginny Branden. I'm an animal communicator and energy healer for animals and their people too. And I am all about working with you and your pet to build a better relationship and more harmony in your lives together.
And we are super excited. We have moved our hosting platform to Substack. So please head on over to Substack if you're not already watching us on there. ridingintheweeds.substack.com is where you can find us. So please go and subscribe. Right now it is free. And anyone who subscribes now when we go to a paid platform will be grandfathered into a paid membership to start with. So it's a great time to join up and really get access to the information and bonus content that we're going to be dropping into that space. So thank you for joining us. And just to kick it off, like that is really a sign of small steps over time. Like Ginny and I have been plugging away at this podcast for 77 episodes, and I was talking to someone recently about the whole imposter syndrome. And it was interesting because she is the exact same age as me. And we were having this conversation about how she's like, you know what, I'm done with this whole imposter thing. I'm just going to own it. And I was like, yeah, you know what, I'm kind of in the same space. I'm starting to, instead of diminish the things that are actually kind of big, starting to look at them and go, you know what, because I took step after step after step, because Ginny and I show up week after week and we record these episodes, we have 77 episodes of our podcast that are up, and we can say that we're podcasters, and we can say that we're comfortable speaking in front of audiences, and we're comfortable sharing these ideas. And that just didn't happen overnight. That is something that we have worked on over the last 3 years, and every little step we take is taking us to wherever it is we're going with this podcast. And when we suddenly explode and we're the number one podcast on Apple podcasting, it'll look like we were an overnight success, when in fact there was a whole lot of work that happened before we did that.
Yeah. And I think that is the truth of everything. There is really no such thing as an overnight success. And, we were talking about examples of this before we jumped on. And part of this conversation stemmed from a video that we'll link down in the comments that was talking about Chappelle Roan and how she did not have overnight success at all, but now she plays for sold out crowds, huge crowds of people. And what would have happened if she had stopped when it was just 12 people in the audience at a little tiny venue? What would have happened if she had gotten discouraged at that point? The same with the other example we have that gets thrown around a lot is Edison and the light bulb. We Googled it to make sure we had some good info, but it was 2,774 versions before it worked for the purpose that Edison was intending at the time. What I think about when I hear that is, have I done anything 2,774 times to see if it would work? Yeah. And I'm pretty sure the answer is no. There's probably nothing in my life that I have tried that earnestly to actually make work.
Well, there's so many versions of this, right? It's like the 10,000 hour theory, you do something for 10,000 hours. And I think there's actually probably a few things that if you really sat down and looked at them, like, you know what, actually, because I consistently took that one little step day after day after day after day, I am where I am today. And whether it's in your health journey or your relationship with your pet or a relationship with your partners, or maybe you have a really good friend that you've had in your life forever. It's like, why do you have good teeth? Well, yeah, genetics sometimes, but you brush your teeth every day and you floss your teeth every day. You don't think anything of making those steps. They say the number one reason why people end up in old people's homes is because they can't get off the floor, right? So you can't get up off of the floor. Basically, all that is sitting down on the floor and getting up every day at least once, right? And keeping that movement going and keeping just that little bit of strength going. And in all of these cases, it's generally just a very small step. You want to lose weight, you're not moving at all, go out for a walk around the block after dinner every day. And I guarantee you 365 days from today, you're going to be better. Now, ironically, I was just in Mexico, and I swear my 346-day streak on Duolingo, I didn't feel like it helped me at all. In fact, I have to say I felt like my Spanish has gone backwards. That could be a different point. But I bet you I still have that vocabulary, which I would not have. And the amount of effort we put into something definitely gives us better results. However, showing up day after day after day in one form or another will eventually get us to a success that to others might seem like, oh my gosh, wow. Chappelle Roan was not Chappelle Roan until she was Chappelle Roan. And we think that these people just appear out of nowhere when, in fact, it's not how it works.
Yeah. The other question I have about the Duolingo situation is, if you hadn't spent that amount of time from the time you left Mexico the last time to returning now, where would your vocabulary have been? And it may not feel like you gained anything in that time, but you probably didn't lose anything either. And sometimes I think that's the value of those small steps over time, is that it's preventing us from not having something that we might otherwise not be able to maintain if we weren't taking the action. And so, yeah, it can feel like you're not making progress, but where would you have been if you hadn't done any of that? Because it's probably not in as good a space as you are at this point in time. So that's why those small steps are so important, and they feel so insignificant. They feel like they don't matter. Like, why should I even keep doing this? it's not making a difference.
And I think that's where it feels like, well, I should have been able to turn up and have a conversation with somebody. And I wasn't able to. However, if I keep going and maybe change the platform, I think I'm going to go with something different than Duolingo, because maybe that one isn't working the best for me, and maybe there's a different thing. But keeping on going, because there is no rush. And one day I'm going to be able to have a conversation in Spanish and be like, whoa, how did that happen? Right? And it's that same feeling as going to the gym, right? I've always laughed at the fact that push-ups don't get easier. Yeah, you notice when you go from doing push-ups against the wall to being able to do push-ups on your knees. And yes, you notice from going push-ups on your knees to push-ups on your toes. And once you've reached push-ups on your toes are always hard. And you don't notice so much that you're able to do more of them, or you're able to do them faster, or maybe, the next step is being able to like clap while you're doing a push-up. You might not ever get there, but the moment that you do, you're in the gym and you do a couple of push-ups and you're able to do a clap in the middle, somebody's going to be looking at you going, wow, look at that person. They were just suddenly able to do a push-up with a clap. No. They were not suddenly just able to do that. That was hours and hours and hours of consistent feeling like you were making absolutely no progress, getting to the point where you're like, you know what, I'm just going to do them on my knees because it's easier. But there isn't a rush.
That was probably the 10,000th push-up, right? Like, that'll be the one.
I think the 20,000th push-up.
Yeah.
But it's just that consistent effort over time. It's the same with that person, you've been working out for years. You've been going to the gym. I remember the day that somebody made the comment, I'd crashed on my bike and I had wedged myself between two trees because it was the safest place to go. I was going over the handlebars and I'm like, oh my God. And I just saw this gap between the two trees. So I pointed myself at the gap between the two trees and I kind of like got wedged in there. And the crew I was with were just giggling. And one girl said, she's like, well, if you weren't so tiny, that probably wouldn't have worked as well. And I had to this point it had probably been, I don't know, 3 or 4 months where I'd been getting up every morning and I'd been doing a 7-minute workout. And I hadn't really noticed any difference. And I hadn't really seen a significant change because it was always hard. And this person called me tiny. And it was then, like in that moment, I was like, really? Huh. Okay. I've changed. My body has changed. I hadn't really noticed because I just kept making small steps and small steps and small steps. And I hadn't seen how much stronger I'd gotten. I'd noticed a bit in my biking, but it was a really cool moment being like, oh, I'm tiny. What I am doing is making a difference. And they were just small little workouts that I would do every day. And really, as I say, I'd noticed a difference in the strength and the ability to ride my bicycle better, but I hadn't really noticed that I had gotten smaller in my body until she pointed out that it's the only reason I was able to fit between the trees.
I think the truth of that, though, and this is why the whole idea of the what's the rush is important, is that we can't see our own progress most of the time. And we have no idea how different things are because we're only living in the moment. And so it always feels like this moment is just as hard as the last moment, or is just as boring, or just the same. When in reality, those moments continue to add up day after day after day. And that's the key, is that we have to put in those moments over and over and over again. You've got to get to that 2,774th light bulb before it's going to work. And until you've got that time, I mean, that's over 2 years, right? That's a long time of continuing to show up day after day, working towards the same thing. The problem is when we get too focused on the goal, the outcome, then we aren't able to be okay being in that day after day after day. And that's why we've talked about before that whole idea of comparing yourself to the gains you've made and not to the goal at the end becomes so important. Because if you're only worried about the goal at the end, it will always be out there somewhere, not where you are. And you've got to be able to find a way to be okay with just those little tiny additions every single day. Otherwise, you'll give up, you'll abandon it. Your toothbrushing is a great example because we know why to brush our teeth. We know why to do that. And we know that you're really not going to see a major difference. Like, yeah, it feels better. Skip too many days in a row, your teeth start feeling weird. So yeah, brush your teeth. It feels better. But on a daily basis, that doesn't change anything really. But yet we know the long-term benefit of doing that. It's a lot easier when you have something that's concrete like that. Like, yeah, I don't want my teeth to fall out of my head. That sounds terrible. So I have a motivation for why to do that. It doesn't matter that I can't tell a difference from today or yesterday. I know why I keep doing it. So you have to be able to find some reason to continue to show up every day when those results are not tangible, when there is no perceivable difference between what you did today and what you did yesterday. Because some days you might be able to do 50 push-ups. The problem is tomorrow you might be a little extra fatigued, you might not have slept good, and 50 is going to feel impossible. But you really haven't lost anything in that time frame. And that's why you have to keep showing up and putting in whatever effort you can manage in that timing for that day as you are, and just let everything compound over time.
Well, and I think too, most of the time, we have no idea where the trail we're on right now is going to take us. And I was doing my yoga this morning and I noticed a comment just under the class when I was done, and it was about this person who was during COVID, borderline alcoholic. They were not doing great. And they found this Yoga with Cassandra person on YouTube, free yoga. She does longer ones, but she does 10, 15-minute, really gentle yin yoga. And I personally love her and kind of agree with this person on this fact. But they said that they were really struggling. And she started doing yoga, just a couple of minutes a day. And now, fast forward, she's teaching. So that was during COVID, and this video got put out 3 days ago, and the comment was on this. So however long that's been, 3-4 years. She's like, fast forward, I'm teaching yoga. I spent 2 years in a yoga retreat and talked about her journey. I guarantee you, when she found this person doing 10-minute yoga on the internet and started doing 10 minutes of yoga a day, there was no goal to become a yoga instructor. None of the things that have happened in her life were a goal that she had put into place. It was merely like, I'm going to do 10 minutes of yoga a day. And that was what she started to do. It could have been a he. They started to do. And now they're in a completely different place in their world than they were before they started. And, you know, she's in her yoga class and people are coming to the class and going, this is me making up a story, going, wow, look at that person. Look how good she is at yoga. Look at what she can do. I can't bend like that. And yet that's not where that person started. And it was just so cool to be like, there's no way when she started it. It wasn't like, I'm going to start doing yoga so I can start teaching yoga. But that's what just those small incremental steps took her. I do these 10, 15-minute yogas in the morning, and then I do one in the evening. And somebody pointed out to me that they were like, yeah, like you can do an hour of yoga once a week. But if you're doing 10 minutes of yoga every day, that's exactly the same, right? So it's no different, but you're doing it daily. And yeah, most people don't have time to do an hour of yoga every day, but you have time to do 10 minutes of yoga. You might not have time to go to a gym for an hour a day, but you probably have 10 minutes to do a workout. There's so many little steps that we can take. And unfortunately, because we're looking for big results instantly, we're like, no, I have to go to a 1 hour yoga class every day. Well, you do that for a week. You realize that doesn't fit in your schedule. And so you stop. So big actions, yeah, they might get you to big results faster, But the truth of the matter is, how often do you actually follow all the way through? I'm going to meditate for an hour every day. Well, that's great. Who has the time? Who has the discipline to sit through that amount of discomfort? Whereas I can do 5 minutes.
Yeah.
What's my excuse to not do 5 minutes of sitting still every day? I got a lot of excuses for why I can't do an hour of sitting still every day, for sure. But if you were just to take 5 minutes a day to be quiet, guaranteed you would one day wake up and your life would be different.
Yeah. I think this is where there's an intersection between quality and quantity, and then the consistency versus the longer period of time less frequently. And you are 100% right that if you're able to do something more consistently in shorter periods of time, you'll end up with better results over time. You could even say that about playing a sport. If you're only going to practice a sport for an hour once a week versus 10 or 15 minutes a day, who do you think is going to improve more in their chosen skill set? There are going to be things that are going to require longer periods of time and a greater time investment, but that doesn't mean that you can't arrange your life so that you can include a tiny amount of something every day, because that's going to get you the gains. If you want to learn a musical instrument, that probably means you need to leave it somewhere accessible so you can pick it up and play it for 10 minutes a day. If that's the Duolingo, you want to learn a new language, you want to use an app, that means putting a reminder in your phone so that it pops up and gives you a notification and tells you, hey, you should practice this today. Like, I noticed that the meditation app Inside Timer has now added a little widget for the home screen if you want to have a widget to like remind you to do things. That's helpful, right? Because it's so easy to just blow through your day and not intentionally incorporate the focus onto whatever the thing is that you want to work on. And it's a practice. Like all of these things, I don't think there's any kind of goal that you could come up with that doesn't involve a practice of some kind, whether that's a learning practice or that's a physical practice of needing to improve your physical body coordination and skills or muscle or whatever it is. All of the goals that are out there that you could want to achieve are going to take some kind of dedicated, focused practice. And that's where the intention that we've talked about before and focus that we have talked about before are so critical. But you can't be in a rush because those things are not something that's just going to happen overnight. There's not anything that will materialize overnight out of setting a goal like that. That's not how everything works together.
Well, and I think there's two things here. One is like thinking outside of the box, right? So when you were talking, I thought about mountain biking. So I live somewhere right now where there isn't a mountain bike trail that's close to me. So I could be like, well, there's no mountain bike trail close to me, so I have no ability except for the time when I drive to the trail. That's the only time I can practice my biking. That's not true. I could go outside onto my driveway and I could spin circles and I could practice my corners. I could put down a couple of flip-flops and I could practice my braking. I could build a little jump and I could practice a jump. I could put a line down and I could practice doing front wheel lifts. There are so many 10, 15-minute drills that if you just went out into your driveway and did one of them every single day, when you got on to your mountain bike trail, you would be a better biker. So not being near a mountain bike trail is no excuse for not getting on your bike and practicing skills, if that's something that's important to you. One of the stories I was telling Ginny before we jumped on was that yesterday I hit day 30 of my Qigong 30-day challenge. I've never hit day 30 of my Qigong challenge before, and I signed up to this in, I think, February 2023. And I've gone through and I've restarted it. So this last challenge I restarted on the 17th of August, 2024. It has taken me 5 months to do 30 days of Qigong. However, I finally got there. And that is a huge win. Like, yeah, maybe I didn't do it every day, but I finally got through the 30 days. It's taken me 2 iterations, maybe 3, of trying to do this 30-day challenge and actually getting to the end. And my habit book does say that this is sometimes the right thing to do. I'm like, well, I'm going to restart. I'm going to start from the beginning. I'm going to go through the 30 days, which is why I'd never made it to the last day. I think I'd made it to the second to last day last time I did this. And then I started again. And now I'm like, cool.
So close.
So close. I was 3 feet from gold and I didn't finish it. So now I'm like, cool. Can I do it again? And now my goal is to do it within 4 months. Right? And every time I do it, I can get a little bit better and I can improve a little bit more instead of being like, oh my God, really? It took me 4-5 months to get to 30 days. This is ridiculous. I give up. I'm clearly not ever going to get any results from this. But that's not the way to look at it. There's no rush. I don't need to complete it in 30 days. I just really love the fact I have a practice that I just open it up. I pick the next lesson in the line and I do it, and it makes it so easy for me when I do commit to doing it that I'm able to do it. And as I say, I'll let you know. My goal is to get it done within 5 months. This time round, it is only 7 minutes.
Well, and now that you've been through it, now you know. And so you can set the goal and say, hey, maybe I can get this done in 4 months this time instead of 5. Who knows? Maybe you'll actually get it done in 30 days.
Maybe.
Because now it's more familiar. And now you already have an understanding of the scope of the lessons. So who knows? Maybe you can hammer it out in 30 days and then you'll get to start repeating it on a consistent basis. But when you don't worry about the exact outcome and that it has to look like 30 consecutive days in a row, otherwise it's no good. When you're not worried about that, then you get to do whatever you want. Who's to say that you don't repeat the first lesson for a week before moving on to the second day of the 30 days? There are really far fewer rules in this world than we like to think there are. And I think when we worry a lot less about the rules, then you don't have to be in a rush. There is no rush, and you can just experience whatever is working for you right now in the moment and just keep putting one foot in front of the other. You know, Chappelle Roan just kept doing shows, right? Just like the Beatles. How many shows did the Beatles do before they, quote, made it? They were not an overnight success either. They had years of practicing together and playing together before they, quote, made it big, before anybody ever knew who they were. And that's all you have to keep doing with whatever it is that you want to work on. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
I just got back from Mexico. And the coolest thing about this is that if you've been listening, you know that I was working up to doing a 6-day, 5-night retreat, bike, surf, and yoga. It's been my dream since the moment that we packed up our camper and drove to Mexico. It's like, I want to run retreats in Mexico. I want to combine all the things that I love about Mexico and share them with people. And we created the most magical experience. The girls that did it, we had 8 people sign up, and we really learned that 8 to 9 people is actually the perfect amount of people. This has never not happened in my life. The amount of people that show up are generally exactly how many people should always be there. And one of the comments that one of the girls made was, it was such an interesting curation of activities, and they were all perfect, but they were all so very different. You know, we went surfing, we did a cacao ceremony, we went biking, we had yoga, we had amazing food, we went to really cool restaurants. And each one of these pieces was created by me. I had a dream. I asked 2 people that I know that are very good. Johanna is amazing at organization and making things happen. She does amazing food. originally Ian was supposed to be doing the food, but she had those skills. So when Ian couldn't come, it was great. So I've got that person in place. I've got a yoga instructor who I know has the perfect energy and resilience and is really good at combining her yoga with the activities that, whether it be, surfing or biking, or they do a ton of other retreats, stand-up paddleboarding, hiking, cross-country skiing. She's a very adaptable yoga instructor, and she's really relatable, and she's just a lovely human being. And I'm like, okay, these two people have the ability to make my dream happen. And over the last 4 years, I've met, this beautiful human being who does cacao ceremonies. One of my very good friends, they have a surf academy. I've been going out and I've been riding the trails. I know the bike trails. I know what will work. And I've created these relationships within the community that enabled us to just put this really beautiful experience together. 2 years ago, I was like, why haven't I done it yet? What is wrong with me that I haven't made this thing happen? And I can tell you today that there was nothing wrong with me. It was just the timing was happening. Audrey's experience in leading cacao ceremonies 2 years ago was not where it is today. Holly's Surf Academy 2 years ago was not in a place where they could have held my 8 girls so absolutely perfectly. And I didn't know these 2 perfect partners that were able to support me and help me in making it all happen. And my experience in the country, my relationships that I had built up, they took time when we were looking at accommodations. Well, that one's not going to work because you need to be able to walk to the beach, because that's really important. That's not going to work because we need to have this particular aspect. And it all came together because of the amount of time and because of all the things that have happened. And back to what I said at the beginning of the episode, Taylor Swift needed to go through everything that she has gone through in order to be able to hit the level of success that she did with the Eras Tour. It was not a coincidence. It wasn't a fluke. It wasn't luck. It was somebody whose business skills, whose personality, who has gone through adversity, who has had to bounce back. It was all of the things that she's dealt with since the beginning of her career enabled her to be an amazing boss, to be generous, to be able to create that energy that made the Eras Tour the biggest grossing, most incredible experience that anybody's ever seen. And you can look at several different artists over time and see the exact same thing. Garth Brooks is the same. He took a huge amount of time off because a bunch of stuff happened in his life. And that was as instrumental to his success when he came back as his music. In fact, I'd argue it was more. And so when we're trying to rush through things, when we're trying to force things, when we're trying to make things happen when we're not ready, and we're beating ourselves up about it. And so it's the bouncing back a lot of the time and the steps that we took in our journey that will get us to where we're going. And there isn't a hurry. There isn't a rush. And if we try and rush these things, well, if you're trying to rush your success in the gym, you're probably going to get hurt. You try and rush your success in meditation, well, you're going to think you're useless because you just can't do it. You try and rush anything. Try and rush a diet. I'm going to quit everything. How long do you really want to detox for? Doesn't work.
Yeah, no, not at all. And I think that's where we go wrong, is when we try and make results happen faster and then we get discouraged. And then we fall off the wagon and we don't want to pick the pieces back up again. I've been there in my life with various things. I've gotten frustrated before because I wasn't seeing results in ways that I thought I should be. There's the S word again that we talk about on the show. And when we get hung up in that place, that's when we're actually going to slow our progress down. This connects back to the slow down to speed up idea. If you are only focusing on the next most important step that you have to take, then you will make progress. it might not feel like much day to day, but there's no way you can't make progress at that point.
Yeah.
It's important to always keep asking questions and keep exploring the options. What would have happened if Edison had quit on number 2000? Where would we be? We might be in the dark. We might not be talking to each other right now. Who knows?
Whole world could be.
But that's why that next step is so important, is to keep exploring and experimenting with whatever's next. Like you said, you don't feel like you got a lot of results on Duolingo, so you're going to go try another app. There's lots of different choices out there. There's lots of different ways to do that out there. So what else can you do that's the next best step that's going to just keep you going?
And keep remembering that there's no rush. Slow down to speed up. If you want any depth into any of the things we've talked about, just go back and listen to our previous episodes. And I think just to kind of sum it all up, but if you don't want to get stuck in the weeds, really focusing on the results that you want to get today, how you want to feel today at the end of the day. Like, yeah, you've got your North Star. Yes, you know where you're going. But it's not about measuring your progress against that. It's about measuring your progress against today. I did a really good workout. It felt amazing. I did my Qigong. It felt really good. I had a great breakfast. It was healthy. That felt good. Got my 3 wins. Let's go. And that's what really matters on the day-to-day, because there isn't any rush. And when we're not rushed and we're not trying to force things, it's amazing how quickly we get to where we want to go.
Yeah. I think that pretty much sums it up. There's not much else to it. It's really not any more complicated than that.
No.
It's simple. Not easy, but simple. Really, it is that simple.
Yeah. And don't look at what other people are doing. Don't compare your results with somebody else's results, because you have no idea the steps that they've taken. Use other people as inspiration, but nothing more. There's no comparison. There's purely just, cool, look at what they were able to achieve. I can probably do the same thing. So I'm Natasha Lockey. I am a bike and life performance coach. I am here to help you stretch, move out of your comfort zone, really step into living the life that you dream of. You can find me at Betty Gohard. You can find me on Facebook, Natasha Lockey. And what about you, Ginny?
Yeah, I'm Ginny Branden. I'm an animal communicator and energy healer for animals and their people too. If you are looking to improve your relationship with your pet, if you're having challenges with behavior or emotional situation, or just want to know a little bit more about what your pet thinks about day-to-day life, then reach out to me. You can find me on the web at soulpetconnections.com and on Substack, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube under the same handle. So we appreciate you coming along for the ride with us today. As Tosh mentioned, we can be found on Substack, writingintheweeds.substack.com, as well as on Instagram and Facebook too. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode. And in the meantime, keep on getting back out of the weeds again.
All right, we'll see you next time.